we go. Okay, well, thank you for being here today for our C6 Alliance Seminar. This is our third one for the fall 2023. I'm Christine Reed, and I'm coming to you from Allan Hancock College. And I see we have students here from Monterey Peninsula College, from Allan Hancock College. We also have students coming in potentially from Cuesta. So I'm super excited to be able to have Angelica here to present to you about STEM scholarships and the resources that we have available for our STEM students within the Alliance. The Alliance goes all the way from Cabrillo College up in Santa Cruz, all the way down to Ventura, Oxnard, and Moore Park College. There's 8 colleges that participate together to support the students on the Central Coast who are pursuing STEM degrees. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Angelica.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Good evening, everyone. I'm Angelica. I am one of the counselors here in our Mesa STEM Academic Success Center at Hancock. That is the role I'm in here today. I'm also a part-time counselor at Cuesta, so if I have any Cuesta students on, you may or may not see me soon at Cuesta as well. So today we are going to be talking about STEM scholarship strategies, and I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to be talking about STEM scholarship strategies, and this is such a good time in the semester to have these conversations and to discuss this topic because there will be a lot of scholarships opening up very, very soon here for students. So what we're going to cover today, we will talk about the types of financial aid because in order to, talk about scholarships, it's really important that you understand where the different financial aid funding that you may or may not be receiving comes from, okay? We'll talk a little bit about the FAFSA and the California Dream Act process. We'll go over the types of scholarships that may be available. We'll talk a little bit about common scholarship requirements. We'll talk about scholarship tips, and I'll walk you through a scholarship opportunity so that you can see how to identify what you're going to need and how to go through the process. And then we'll also talk about scholarship resources. And feel free, if you have any questions, to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. All right, so just a quick overview on the types of aid that may be available. So FAFSA, I hope that all of you have heard of the FAFSA and that if you qualify to apply for FAFSA, that you've submitted it for this academic year. We'll talk a little bit about what it's going to look like for next year in a minute. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you're able to apply for FAFSA, and through FAFSA, our financial aid offices at your colleges are able to determine if you're eligible for grants, loans, or work study. If you're not eligible to apply for FAFSA and you're AB 540 or DACA, you should be applying for the DREAM Act. And you should be applying for either one of these, depending on what you qualify for, not both, every single year, okay? And then in addition to the funding that may come from the federal government or the state government, there's also various scholarships available, and that's what we're really going to focus on today. And there's institutional scholarships, which are those scholarships that are funded through your colleges or the universities. And then there's also private scholarships through businesses and different companies and other donors. So a little bit on the FAFSA, okay? So through the FAFSA, like I mentioned, we are able to determine if you're eligible for grants, and some of the grants can be the Pell Grant, the Cal Grant, the California Promise Grant, or university grants. I encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, is to log into your college's portal and take a look at your financial aid award package so you can have a good understanding of what type of financial aid and what types of grants you're earning. And the reason I mention this is because a lot of colleges either have the first year free or the first year 2 years free. A lot of us call it the promise. And sometimes students believe that after their first year, they will no longer get assistance with their tuition. However, there is different types of grants that you might be eligible for, even if the first year passes or the second year passes and you're utilizing the promise through your college, there's also the California Promise Grant, which this is based off of need. So whether or not your college offers that first year free, it's likely that you might still get your tuition covered through the California Promise Grant. And this is offered at all California community colleges, and it's based off of need. So pay attention to that on your financial aid award package. In addition, through the FAFSA, we're able to determine if you're eligible for loans, and there is two types of federal loans. One is subsidized loans, and the other is unsubsidized loans. So if you're going to go and pull a loan for your education, I recommend that you pull your loan from your financial aid award package and avoid going through like the bank or another private loan company. Usually you're going to get a better interest rate through the loans that are available via FAFSA. So subsidized loans are loans that do not accumulate interest while you're a student. So you pull out the loan, and as long as you're a student, it's not accumulating interest until after you graduate. And unsubsidized loans are those loans that the moment that you pull them out, you begin to accumulate interest. And then there's also work study, and that comes from the federal government. This is also depending on need, and it's a part of your financial aid award package if you're eligible for this. But essentially what work study does is it provides funding for you to go get a job, and then they use that funding to pay for you. Okay, so there's some on-campus jobs that seek work study students because they're able to use that funding to pay for you. So what is the process of going through the FAFSA? So every year you want to make sure that you're applying for FAFSA. Usually you want to get it submitted by March 2nd. That is a priority deadline. However, for the 24-25 academic year, the FAFSA is going through some major changes. It's actually not available just yet. It should be available in December. And it sounds like they're going to push the priority deadline just for this next academic year out to April. Okay, but just make sure that once December hits, that you go onto the FAFSA website and read up on the information that they have available and begin to complete your FAFSA. Winter break is a good time to fill out your FAFSAs. Once you fill out your FAFSA, the financial aid department will receive your information. It's important that you're checking your college's portal regularly. Your financial aid section on your portal will provide you with additional information in regards to if the financial aid department needs more documentation from you, okay? So they might have you go in there and answer a couple questions. They might request for you to complete documents or submit forms. So make sure that every year you're checking on the necessary requirements after you submit your FAFSA through your college's portal. Once your college has everything they need from you, then they will put together an award package. So any questions on the FAFSA process? Okay, so the California Dream Act process is identical. However, if you're applying for the California Dream Act, the only types of grants you can get is from the state, and that could be a Cal grant, a California Promise grant, or the university grant. And like I mentioned, the process is identical to the FAFSA process. You're just completing a different application. And this is a link for the California Dream Act if that's what you're eligible for. All right. So now to talk a little bit about scholarships. This is what we're all here for today. So there is various different types of scholarships, and there is so many scholarships out there that are available and ready to help fund your education. So there is institutional scholarships that are provided through your college or university. A lot of your colleges have a foundation office where they provide scholarships to students who are attending that particular college. For example, at Hancock, we have the Hancock Foundation. At Cuesta, there's a Cuesta Scholarship Foundation. So check with your school's financial aid page and find out if there is a foundation or a scholarship that's just specific to your college. And if there is one, you want to definitely be applying to that scholarship every single year. There's also scholarships available at the UC. So if you are applying for transfer and you're going to be transferring in the fall, when you're completing your UC admission application, there's a section in that application in regards to scholarships where they're asking you different questions where you're able to check off different areas that align with like your interests or your background or your academic goals. So the UC uses that portion of your application to match you with scholarships. The CSUs also have scholarships available, and most of the time you can find the scholarships that are available at the CSUs at their financial aid webpage. Okay, so if you're going to be applying for transfer currently and you're going to be starting at the university in the fall, I encourage you to really pay attention when you're completing the UC application in the scholarship section, and that you begin to look at the CSU's financial aid pages at the colleges that you're applying to, so that you can take a look at what's available at those campuses. So in addition to your institutional scholarships, there's also private scholarships. And this can be different foundation, different businesses. Sometimes your employer where you're working, they might have scholarship opportunities for you. Or if your parent is working for an employer, a lot of the times they also provide opportunities for dependents of their employees. So make sure that you are checking with your employer or even your parent's employer, because they might have scholarship opportunities for you. There's often scholarships available through nonprofit organizations and other charitable organizations. So I encourage you all to begin your research on scholarships early on and begin to think about different scholarships that you can be applying to. I will go over some resources today in just a minute, but begin to think about your employer. Does your employer provide scholarships? Are you working for a big company? It's likely that they might. So always check in with your employer or your parents' employer. Alrighty. So why apply for scholarships? So first off, I want to say scholarship money is free money that is awarded to you because you're a student to help fund your education. So that money does not have to be paid back, okay? You're able to utilize however you need it to pay for your educational expenses. So that could be purchasing books, that can be your living expenses, that can be your meals, your transportation. You're able to use that however you want, okay? By having more aid coming in through scholarships, it also allows you to free up some work time, right? Many of you have part-time jobs because you want to be able to help yourself fund your education. However, if you're getting scholarship money, you can use that to pay for your expenses and minimize the amount of hours that you're working each week. And this allows you to make school your #1 priority and put in more time and energy to your education. It will allow you to have more time in the week to study, to be more selective on how you spend your time. And it also frees up time for you to engage in more academic related experiences, like getting involved with clubs on campus, working on projects, taking on internships, and even job shadowing. So the goal here is to bring extra money in through scholarships so that you can gain more out of your academic experience, because now you're allowing yourself to have more time if you're not spending 20 hours a week at work. So what are some common scholarship requirements? So every scholarship is going to look a little bit different in terms of what they're going to expect you to submit for their scholarship application. However, these are some of the most common requirements that we see scholarships requiring students to fill out. Okay, so #1, every scholarship will have some form of an application. Okay, and on the application, they're going to ask, your personal information. They're going to want to know your name, your email address, your phone number, your where you're attending school. So they're going to ask a lot of personal information. A lot of the times they're also going to want you to have a FAFSA or a California Dream Act application on file. Okay, so if you're a student who might have not received financial aid in the past and you no longer fill out the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, get in the habit of just filling it out every year, because things can change and you never know when you might be eligible for something. But even if you're not eligible for state or federal grants, there might be some scholarships that will require that you have a FAFSA or a DREAM Act on file. Okay. You might also be writing personal statements. I think more often than not, you will be asked to put together a personal statement or to respond to an essay prompt. This is your opportunity to let the scholarship committee know who you are, what you're all about, what your goals are, and this is their chance to get to know you a little better. So you will most likely be writing personal statements, letters of recommendation. You'll also be asked to provide transcripts, and oftentimes you will be invited in for an interview. So some scholarship tips. So I encourage you all to explore all of your options, okay? Take some time, searching the web for scholarships. Look on your financial aid pages for each of your colleges. Most of the colleges on their financial aid page will have a list of different scholarships that may be available to students. Super important is that you never pay money for scholarship information. If you're searching the web and you run across a scholarship that seems like an amazing opportunity, however, they ask you to pay money to get information or to apply, run away from it. It's a scam. Nobody should ever be charging you money to apply for scholarships, okay? So don't pay money for that. Consider local opportunities, local companies, local foundations, so keep that in mind. And don't waste time on applying for scholarships that you are clearly not eligible for. Invest your time in those that you meet requirements for and that seem like a good fit. I have, however, heard of students applying for scholarships that they're not eligible for and getting them. If you have extra time on your hands, go ahead and submit those applications, but really try to prioritize the scholarships where you meet requirements so that you can have a higher chance of getting them, okay? You don't want to waste your time on things that you might not be eligible for. Applying for scholarships does take a lot of time and energy, so be ready to stay dedicated and put in that time to search and to work on scholarship application. Super important that you're paying close attention to detail, especially when you're applying to more than one scholarship at a time. And it's totally okay to apply to multiple scholarships at once. We encourage you to apply to as many, but do pay close attention to details and try not to get them confused. I will share a scholarship tracking sheet with you. That way you're able to utilize that and keep yourself organized. If you need help, reach out to your counselors, to your instructors, to get help and allow enough time to develop strong personal statements. If you don't have a personal statement yet, I would encourage you to begin to put something together so that you have a draft ready to go as you begin to research scholarships. Think positively about yourself throughout the process. You deserve scholarships. Hype yourself up and be looking for scholarships and be positive throughout this process. Okay, as you see things come up, look over the requirements and make note of what you're going to need, and just keep yourself motivated with good energy. Like I mentioned, you may need letters of recommendation, so be considerate of who you are asking to write a letter on your behalf. You want to make sure that the person who you're asking is able to provide a strong letter for you, okay? You want them to be able to write good things about you. So be selective of who you choose to ask for letters of recommendation. Follow up and send thank you letters, and be persistent and consistent throughout the process. Don't ever quit, and utilize that scholarship tracking sheet that I will provide to you. Okay, so how do we maximize your chances of winning scholarships? So my number one recommendation is that you are applying for scholarships regularly. And you're probably thinking, Angelica, how am I going to apply to so many scholarships if I have school, if I have work? if I have other commitments. However, once you begin the scholarship process for one scholarship, it's very likely that a lot of the material that's required is going to be very similar to what you've already used. So you will probably be able to recycle some of the material that you've utilized, okay? So although it sounds like a lot of work to apply to multiple scholarships, once you get one going, the rest will come pretty easily for you, okay? But you just got to put in that time and effort. Review and understand scholarship requirements. So when you come across a scholarship, make sure that you're reading the requirements in their entirety, that you're going over all of the material that they expect you to complete, put together a checklist for yourself so that you don't miss anything. Be ready to invest plenty of time completing applications and collecting all of your required documents. And make sure you're not missing application deadlines because you're investing time and energy. The last thing you want is to not submit an application in on time with all of their required documents. So keep track of what you're applying to, calendar things in so that you don't forget to submit your applications on time. Take the process seriously. Okay, so scholarships specific to STEM, those are the ones I really want you all to focus on. And of course, there'll be plenty of other scholarships that you can apply to. However, when you're applying to STEM specific scholarships, the application pool is going to be a lot smaller. Okay, as we know, there is thousands of students across the nation, right? But there is, I don't know, another few thousand who are specifically majoring in STEM. So once that scholarship has this particular requirement that you have to be a STEM major, the applicant pool is going to be a lot smaller because not everybody is majoring in STEM, right? So you are more likely to win a scholarship that is closely related to your major, your interests, and your qualifications. So on our Hancock College Mesa STEM page, we have put together a scholarship toolkit for our students, but it's on the website. Everybody is, able to jump onto our website, and on the toolkit, I'm going to click on it now, and hopefully you're still able to see my screen. So let me stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare. Okay, so this is our STEM scholarship toolkit on the Mesa webpage, and you'll have the link for this. But you'll find information on applying for scholarships, a lot of the information we're going over today. But the great thing about our toolkit is that there is a list of STEM scholarship opportunities that you have available to you. And the list kind of just goes on. Of course, some of these might be specific to Hancock and to the community here in Santa Maria, because there is some very specific ones, but then there's other scholarships like the PG&E scholarship that's open to all students who are majoring in STEM. So I encourage you to take some time and go through the STEM scholarship toolkit on the Hancock website. You might find something really good on here. And there's also another tab here that's scholarships that don't require proof of U.S. citizenship. So even if you are a U.S. citizen, you can apply for these. But if you're not, I know sometimes it's really hard to find scholarship opportunities. So this is a list that was put together by the Immigrants Rising program. And here, if you scroll through, here is a list of various different scholarships. And as you noticed, this document says it's for 2021. Just keep in mind that you might see some scholarships right now where the deadlines have already passed. However, most scholarships run on a yearly basis. So even if something is closed right now, it's likely that it's going to become open very, very soon. So if you find something that you meet requirements for and you want to apply to, make note of it and come back to it once that application period opens up for this next application cycle. And I'm going to show you one today that has a deadline that's already passed, but it's going to reopen up very soon. So we'll go through that in just a minute. Could you all see my screen with the PowerPoint? Could somebody give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Okay, thank you. So thank you, Anna. All right, let's continue on. Okay, so personal statements. So oftentimes students really hesitate to apply for scholarships when there's a personal statement required. However, don't fear this process. I know it can be a little bit daunting, but the personal statement is something that you put together about yourself to highlight all the great things that you have to offer, your goals, your academic goals, your career goals. So although it might sound like it's a hard process to begin with, try to jump into it because it will probably be a lot easier than what it seems, okay? Try to just start writing. If you're having a hard time putting words on paper or putting your top thoughts together, I encourage you to do a 5-minute free write. If the scholarship gives you a prompt, read the prompt and then do a 5-minute free write and write down everything that comes to mind when you read that prompt, okay? After you've taken those 5 minutes, put that document away and then maybe come back to it the next day and read it. And you might very likely have something that you can work with and expand on, okay? So if you're ever stuck where you can't get going with writing, just do a free write and write down everything that comes to mind. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about if it makes sense. Just write and keep writing for 5 to 10 minutes. When you're working on personal statements, make sure that you are focusing on the prompt if the scholarship gives you a prompt, okay? Most likely they'll give you a question that they want you to answer. So make sure that you're answering their question in its entirety. Do allow for enough time to write a draft, get it revised, get feedback, make corrections. I encourage you to use your success centers or your writing centers on campus. Usually you're required to utilize this service when you're in your English class. Even if you're not in an English class, most of the time you're able to go back there and get support. So whenever you want feedback on a personal statement or a writing assignment, you should always be turning to your writing center or your success center, just depending on what your college calls it, okay? As you're putting together your personal statement, be your own best fan. Don't sell yourself short. Think about all of your accomplishments, highlight your accomplishments, talk about your skills, your strengths, and just provide the scholarship committee with a good representation of paper of who you are, because they might not get the chance to meet you, right? So give them a little bit more of who you are and what you have to offer, but also make sure that you're being honest. Get creative and present yourself in a positive light. Be precise, get to the point. If they give you a prompt, get to the point, answer that prompt, and try not to ramble. Start with something that will grab your reader's attention, but don't exaggerate. So, make sure it flows and that it's natural. And also be sensitive to your reader and have a format that is easy to follow and easy to read. Pay attention to the font that you're using. I would stick with like Times New Roman or the default font on Word. That's always a good go-to, and just make sure that your margins aren't exaggerated, that you're using the 0.5 margin, normally what you would use if you were writing an essay or an English paper. So letters of recommendation. So for scholarships, most often than not, you will be required to provide letters of recommendation. So make sure that you're thinking about who you're going to ask for letters of recommendations. I would strongly recommend that you begin to build relationships with your instructors, with your counselors, and with any other staff on campus. Because if you haven't had to request a letter of recommendation, you want to make sure you have people that are able to provide strong letters for you, okay? So, have those meetings with your counselors, go to your instructor's office hours so that they can get to know you better. That way, if you request a letter from them, they're happy to provide one for you. When you are requesting letters, don't wait till last minute. Make sure that you're giving them plenty of time to complete that letter. You want to have them have plenty of time with their prompt or with their instructions, because you want them to be able to produce a good letter for you. Okay, so try to give them about 2 weeks minimum of a heads up so that they're able to plan and get you the letter. Provide your recommender with ample direction. So let them know what scholarship you're applying to, let them know how they need to submit their letter. If there's specific things that they need to submit with their letter, give them that information. Sometimes scholarship applications don't necessarily require a letter, but instead they want your recommender to fill out a form. So if that's what they need to do, make sure that you're letting them know ahead of time. Okay. And whenever appropriate, have the letter addressed specifically to the organization or person who is administering the scholarship. If you're able to avoid general letters, do. If you're not, totally fine. But it puts a nice personal touch if your recommender is able to address the scholarship committee. And ask graciously and be thankful. Okay. So if an instructor or a counselor or a staff member on campus or an employer is able to provide you with a letter of recommendation, make sure that you follow up and send them a thank you note. All right, so keeping track of scholarship opportunities. I encourage you to maintain a personal scholarship binder, file, or email. I highly recommend that as you begin your scholarship search process, that you create a new email specifically for applying to scholarships, because there'll be some really cool resources that you can sign up for that will likely inundate your email. So if you create a new email for those types of opportunities, it's better because you know that that particular email specifically for scholarships. As you're applying for multiple scholarships, make sure that you're staying organized and you're making note of those due dates. Track your scholarships, those that you're eligible for today. And if there's scholarships that you're not eligible just yet because maybe you haven't taken particular classes or you don't meet the GPA requirements right now, but in the future you will, make sure that you're taking note of those and coming back to them when you do meet requirements. Design a tracking sheet and log the ones that you're applying for. And like I said, I'll share with you a tracking sheet that you can use. Keep record of your completed applications on paper and electronically. Maintain your copies. So I think for the most part, most of the scholarship applications will be submitted electronically. So if you're able to create a folder on your desktop or on a flash drive to keep yourself organized and keep everything together. If your scholarship is requiring that you mail things in, make sure that you're making copies. Follow up with scholarships that you've already applied for and log your outcomes. And like I mentioned, if you are mailing things out for whatever reason, make sure that when you go to the post office to mail things out, that you are getting some type of proof that you mailed it out. It's unlikely that you'll be mailing things out physically, but there might be scholarships out there that do require that you physically mail them out. So if that is the case, make sure that you're getting proof. Here is a quick snippet of the scholarship tracking sheet that I will be sharing with you. So all of this material will be posted on the C6 seminar page, and you'll be able to have access to this tracker. It's an Excel sheet that you can edit and use. But what I have on here is like, make a note of the scholarship name, the link, when it's due, review the requirements in their entirety and determine whether or not you meet their criteria, the amount, do they want letters of recommendation, do they want essays, do you need transcripts, and anything else. Once you submitted it, make sure that you're noting that it's been submitted, and also just a little section where you can check off whether or not you followed up. Okay, and then you'll be able to edit this this tracking sheet. It's on Excel. You can add or remove, move things around as they best fit for you. All right, so finding scholarships. So student services centers on campus, your financial aid department, connect with your counselors and instructors. The library, oftentimes they have bulletin boards in your library where scholarship opportunities are posted. Social media, the Hancock Scholarship Toolkit. This is a link to scholarships for women in STEM. There's a few different sites that you can access on here. And here is a list of scholarship websites that you can utilize. I am going to click on Build Your Future, the Google Scholarship, because I want to go over this scholarship because it provides you with a lot of information, and I just want to show you an example of how to prepare and what to expect, okay? All right, so you should be seeing the Generation Google Scholarship for North America on your screen. And this is typically what a scholarship page will look like. So it gives you information about the scholarship amount, so $10,000 scholarship or $5,000 in Canada. It lets you know the applications are now closed. And you might run into this a lot right now. Usually things begin to open up mid fall semester. So if things are closed, they're going to be opening up pretty soon. Okay. But we know that you run on a yearly basis. So it will be open up for next academic year. So most scholarships will provide you with an overview of what their scholarship is and what it offers. So this particular scholarship through Google, it's a Generation Google Scholarship, and it was established to help aspiring students pursuing computer science degrees excel in technology and become leaders in the field. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of an overview, and then here's the important stuff that you want to make sure that you're reviewing. Who can apply? So these are the requirements, and this is what they're looking for. Okay, so this will vary depending on the scholarship, but we're just focused on this one just so as an example so that you can see what to expect. So they're looking for students who are enrolled as full-time students in a bachelor's program at an accredited university or college. So it's okay if you're at a community college, you can apply, or currently enrolled high school seniors who will be coming to a college that following year, okay? So they expect you to intend to enroll full-time in a bachelor's program the year that you're going to be receiving the scholarship, okay? So for last year, it was 2023, 2024. They're looking for students who are computer science, computer engineering, or a closely related technical field. They look for strong academic record, demonstrate financial lead, and exemplify leadership and demonstrate passion for improving representation of underrepresented groups in computer science and technology. So here are the requirements. And then they also let you know if you're not eligible, we strongly encourage you to visit our Google Careers for students. And I clicked on this page earlier and they have some pretty cool internships listed. So quick plug on internships. Google has internship opportunities. So I encourage you all to check it out. And here's the application process. So what they're looking for you to complete through their online application. They're going to be asking for general background information, your contact info, details about your current and intended universities. They're going to ask about your family and household information. This scholarship requires a resume, one letter of recommendation, academic transcript from your current institution and prior, if applicable, and then they want you to respond to short answer essay questions. And then they provide you the essay questions here, okay? And here's the application deadline. So if we were looking at this last year, this was due on Friday, May 19, 2023. That tells me that when this opens back up, it's probably going to be due in May of 2024. Okay, so keep this in mind. If you meet these requirements, I would jot it down and then come back to it sometime in January to see if it's open. So that's an example of one. I'm going to show you one more because we have time. So now I'm going to show you the Lockheed Martin scholarship. It's really similar to the requirements. Let me jump over. Here it is. So this is a STEM scholarship through Lockheed Martin. I hope that you're able to all see my screen. And it gives you an overview of the program. It's letting you know each year the STEM scholarship program awards $10,000 to 200 recipients studying engineering or computer science at a four-year college or university. So for those of you who are going to be transferring starting fall 2024, like that's when you're starting at the university, you should be eligible to apply for this scholarship. And then it gives you kind of an overview of who they awarded the past year, provides you with the eligibility requirements. So they're looking, you have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to demonstrate financial need. They have a GPA requirement, so they're looking for a 2.5 GPA. These are the majors that they're interested in. They want you to be a full-time student. They also want you to show interest in a paid internship with Lockheed Martin. And then here's a little bit more information about the selection of recipients, okay? And they also have an FAQs page. So when you're going through your scholarship search, I encourage you to start by identifying a few and then going on their websites and going through their overview and the list of all of the requirements. And if you're meeting those requirements, then go on to the tracking sheet, add it to your tracking sheet, and keep track of what documents you're going to need to submit with it. So now I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint. Any questions? Okay, hold on. Oops, I'm having a hard time sharing here. Here we go. Oops. Okay, so back onto the PowerPoint. So here's a list of various different legit websites where you can go on and search for scholarships. Like I mentioned, some of these will inundate your inboxes. So I encourage you to create a new email specifically for scholarships and check these websites out. You might not need to create accounts with all of them, but FAFSA is it's a good one that you can sign up with, and they'll send you scholarship opportunities pretty regularly. And there's quite a few others. And I shared with you our MESA STEM scholarship toolkit on the Hancock College website. That is another fantastic place where you can go look and see what's available in terms of STEM scholarships. All right, any questions? No questions? All right. I hope that as scholarships begin to open up, that you find scholarships that you're eligible for and that you complete those applications. Don't hesitate to reach out to your instructors or your counselors for support. As a counselor, I love supporting students through the scholarship process because I want you to get money to pay your education. So please reach out to us. We're happy to help. All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you so much for joining. Christine, anything you want to add?
No, just thank you. And I think we're good to go. Everyone have a great evening.
Awesome. Good night, everyone.